Hi, this is Anna Imagination with her weird shit. So, when you graduate from high school, you are expected to step into the chain reaction. Stepping into the chain reaction requires some understanding of the chain reaction, how it works, how it moves, and how you can step into it and stay sustained. And this is really what it is. You are either in the chain reaction or somebody else is sustaining you in the chain reaction. So the situation is you really need to sustain yourself in the chain reaction. The chain reaction is your landlord owns the house you are living in, or the banker owns the house you are living in, and you need money, so you go to a job, or you have a business, or you have investments. The money comes in and that goes toward your home and your electric, and that fuels other people's jobs and all that jazz. This is a chain reaction. Now, that means that your landlord banker, the person who stands before you, has to be solid and stable. It means that your job and the business has to be stable. It means that your home and your electricity can then be stable. Now, your mental health is literally going to depend, well, I couldn't say your mental health. Your mental health and your education are the two factors that are going to determine whether or not this chain reaction is going to work out. Everything in your life is now completely dependent upon your mental health and your education. Now, if you have phenomenal education and you have phenomenal mental health, you still could struggle because you lack resources. You lack transferable resources. This is a problem because if you do not know how to transfer your resources, or you do not have transferable resources, you are going to have a problem. So you have your transferable resources, you have your mental health, and you have your education. The majority of people have none of these three things. This is what's wrong with the world today. Your education is going to determine your mental health, because your mental health is a reflection on your knowledge of logic and your mind. That is it. 100% of your health is dependent upon your logic and your mind. Nothing else. Everything else is a symptom to those two things, your logic and the knowledge of your mind. You have those two things and you're fine. Everything else is left to chance. If you have bad chance, you landed with the wrong people and you're in the situation you're in. If you had good chance, you may have landed yourself in one of the rare, nourishing homes. If not, you are in is your knowledge and logic and your knowledge in the mind up to par? Because if it's not, then you're not going to have transferable resources. When you have no transferable resources and no mental health and no education, you are now having all of this entire chain reaction crumble. When the chain reaction crumbles, it ejects you and you are out of it. There really is nowhere else after that. You are now in a situation where you are a dependent and somebody else has to sustain you until you get back up and running. In order to sustain you, you need to go back into your education, your mental health, your transferable sources. To get transferable resources, you need to fix your mental health. To fix your mental health, you need a proper education. Now, you are a product of the narcissist's school of obedience, cooperation, and conformity. They gave you the mental illness you have. They failed to give you any kind of education that would prevent, help nourish your mental health, and they failed to provide you with any information on the transferable resources. I have an alternative. I have an alternative to all of this. My school, my everything, my education did not come from the narcissistic school of obedience, conformity, and cooperation. My school came from the original educators and the founders of wisdom. So those people really knew what the fuck they were doing with education. Yeah, my educators came from the founders of wisdom and education. And as a result, my educational system is very, very different. My educational system teaches people how to be geniuses, teaches people how to go through all of the education knowledge to reverse engineer it, to integrate it, and to do so in a very simple, highly compact time frame. Because they understand wisdom and education. They founded it. They are the authors of wisdom and education and knowledge. And their idea or their way of handling education, wisdom, and knowledge is very different than anybody else's. Very, very different than anybody else's. So understanding the big picture, understanding the construct. Right now, there's a whole lot of leads to your knowing how to handle it, knowing how to resolve it. That's mandatory for problem solving. Understanding what the big picture is, understanding what we have that we're dealing with, it's all vital to being able to solve the problem. The problem is when you are educated by the narcissistic school of obedience, cooperation, and conformity, you are not given the tools to analyze problems properly. And because you do not know how to analyze problems properly, you do not know how to solve them properly. So you are either in this chain reaction or you are being taken care of by somebody else who's inside of it. You might be wanting to find a way to shift yourself from where you are into another position. And education is not at all like anything you have seen. It is entirely different from anything you have seen. And understanding what education really feels and looks like is entirely different than anything else you have seen. Every time I get into it, every time I look into it, examine it, it's a very, very different process. It's literally just logical construction and reconstruction. It's all it is over and over again. Logical construction, reconstruction, deconstruction, reconstruction. That's all it is over and over again. You deconstruct, you reconstruct. You deconstruct, you reconstruct. And that's literally the learning process. You deconstruct, you reconstruct. You're given X. You deconstruct X, you reconstruct X. You have X again. It's reverse engineering. This process, X, deconstruct, reconstruct, X, is logic. Everything in the entire world does this. Cells do this. Atoms do this. Everything does this. X, deconstruct, reconstruct, X. It's a pattern. It is literally the same pattern that our brains use when it has a disease and it breaks it down. It is the same pattern a child has when they are growing. It is the same pattern a flower has when it is producing seed. It is the same pattern that a cell has when it's cancer. It is the same process a cell has when it is in the early fertilization process of sperm to egg. It is the process of sperm to egg. It is everything. X, deconstruct, reconstruct, X over and over again. This is a logical chain. It is the only logical chain. It is the first logical chain. When you link X, deconstruct, reconstruct X onto each other over and over again, you get growth, you get love. This is loving. It is the nourishment integration process of growing bigger. As you X, deconstruct, reconstruct X, everything builds because it is reconstructing. So it's an integration within an integration within an integration, or it's a disintegration within a disintegration within a disintegration, depending upon which way you are facing. The truth points you in the right direction. The truth is the only thing to point you in the right direction of this process. You have the truth, and then you have X, deconstruct, reconstruct X. From truth, now you're deconstructing. So you need a point of origin with your X, deconstruct, reconstruct X, or you will end up disintegrating without you knowing it. You will end up deconstructing in the wrong direction because you don't have truth. When you don't have truth, then you end up chasing symptoms. When you have truth, you chase the causes and the catalysts. Psychologists are facing the wrong way. That's why they keep deconstructing psychology and making more and more and more and more subgenre of all of the mental illnesses they've already figured out. It's because they're going the wrong way. There's your psychologists. It's because they don't have truth. So they're chasing symptoms. Some doctors have figured out truth, so they're going toward truth. When you face truth and you integrate toward it, you're getting closer to the beginning. Once you get to the first beginning, the integrated whole, you're at the beginning. You've arrived at truth. Now you're at Rata. You can deconstruct, reconstruct right up to truth. That's how you find wisdom. That's how you know what truth is. Then from the point of truth, you can take everything, compare it down with the X, reconstruct, deconstruct, X. All right, I know what this is. If it does not follow this pattern, then what it does is it has deconstruct, and that's all it is. It has nothing else. It is literally a mutant of logic. It is a logical mutant, which is called a lie or illogic. It's amazing. All information, all data, everything, all communication is built off of these two codes, 1 and 0. And that's it. There's nothing else. 1 and 0. All of life is 1 or 0. But the thing is, the 0, the deconstruct, that's not natural. That is a mutation. That is not natural. Because what is natural is this logical code of X, deconstruct, reconstruct X, because that's in everything. But you know what's not in everything? This one mutant. This mutant is an anomaly. It is not natural. It's extraordinary. So when you're looking at everything, and you're looking at the core being of, I need education so I can have mental health, so I can have transferable resources, you're going to require an alternative education. You're going to need something so different that it's completely untainted by any narcissism. You're going to need pure truth. And in order to have that, you're going to have to study from the founders of wisdom, education, and knowledge, which was King Solomon, Zoroaster, Zarathustra, which was the parent to literally all knowledge and wisdom, religions, everything. King Solomon, Zoroaster, Zarathustra was literally the foundation of everything. They directly taught Pythagoras and Euclid. Pythagoras and Euclid knew what they knew because they studied from Zarathustra, who studied from King Solomon. Look at all the geniuses they developed. So you have truth, Rata, and the study and the wisdom of truth and Rata, or you don't. And if you don't, it's because you don't have truth, because you have the narcissistic school of obedience, cooperation, and conformity, which is an entirely different educational system. What it is not truth. Because if you had truth for your educational system, then you would not have mental health. You would not have a problem with transferable resources. I'm sorry, you would not have poor mental health. And then you would not have a problem with transferable resources. From there, you can then step into the chain reaction. And that's really what all of this comes down to, is you stepping into the chain reaction. If you don't step into this chain reaction, then you're going to be a hermit. And you're going to have to self-sustain, and you're going to be a closed system, which is okay if that's what you want. It is a sign and a symptom of mental illness. But being a hermit and being a closed cell system means that you are 100% closed off. You want to step into the chain reaction? How well are you? Are you prepared to step into the chain reaction? Your educational system should be doing nothing but preparing you to step into that chain reaction properly, efficiently. So its number one duty is to make sure you have proper mental health, and then the correct education to nourish that proper mental health for your logic and your mind, and then develop your transferable resources to get you into that chain reaction properly and fluently. I have done all of this. So not only did I learn from King Solomon to Zarathustra to Pythagoras to Plato to myself. Yeah, let's do this. Solomon, Zoroaster, Pythagoras, Plato. I am a 5th generation from the original knowledge. I am 5th generation from the original knowledge. Try that emphasize. 5th generation. So my knowledge, my wisdom, my understanding of things is pure. It's direct from literally the founder of, 5 generations out from the founder of wisdom, education, and knowledge. And then from there, it gives you an entirely different education and understanding of what knowledge is. So that logic and the mind are no longer a mystery. They're done. Disease, not a problem. You can literally reverse engineer. Your question might be, how the fuck do you do that? It's not possible. Yes, it is. You have to know how. It very much is possible. You just got to know how. That's the first thing we cover when we get into Triadic healing, is we go over all of the how. We show you how it's done, and then we do it. It's understanding the big picture of what knowledge and education really is. It's understanding why you had to learn it. It's because you have logical data chains. And there are approximately 14 logical data chains. There are more, but let's just go with the 14 basic ones. There are 6 primary core chains, and each one of those core chains make up 3. So if you have, I'm going to get this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have 6, and then you have 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 18. So there are 18 logical data chains. That is what you've got. 18 logical data chains. Now, once you collect the 18 logical data chains in their groupings of 3, and then you braid them together, it unlocks a 19th logical data chain, which is truth / history and future. And there it is. Truth, history, future. And then you can unravel all of time. That is what happens after you collect these 18 logical data chains. For reference, you might have 2 at most. You might have 2. Your entire human happiness existence is composed of the entire woven DNA of these 19 logical data chains. And you have 2, which is why you have mental illness, because you have 2. That's why. It's also why you're aging, and it is also why you die around 60 to 90 years old, is because you only have 2 of the 19 logical data chains. Once you get the 19 logical data chains, more data chains unlock. It's exactly like a video game. More logical data chains unlock. And you do arrive at Rata, which is pure truth. That is also what happens at the 19th logical chain. And then you have access to all this other knowledge. So that's when you get into wizardry, which is philosopher, sage. That is when you get into magi, genie, magi, logi. So once you are done with the 18 logical data chains, and by the way, let me show you this. It's 3, 6, 9, 12. Once you get to the first 12, that's when mental health cleans up. Mental health goes away after you get through the first 3, 6, 9, 12. Through the first 12, mental health. That's it. Mental health comes after you get 12 logical data chains. That's also, yeah. And then you get youth when you get the rest of it. And it's all about how you regulate your mental health, but it's more than mental health. It's physics. It's your physics. It's your physics. You have physics and energy and frequency inside of you. Are you regulating your physics? Most likely you're not, because you were not taught how to use logic or the mind. The mind is pure logic and physics. That's all it is. So you've got to learn how to use your mind logically for its own group, for its own maintenance. And then once you do this, you start weaving and winding your own braids of knowledge to create them and manufacture them into whatever it is you want. We teach you how to do that. And it's a very self-sufficient, independent process that just literally goes on its own. That just goes on its own. So there are multiple ways you can do triadic healing. It has to be done in order. So triadic healing part 1 is always where you start. And you can either do the book form. You can just read 4 books and you're done. Literally. 4 books and you're done. You can go through the game. And you can also take the online course, which is free. All of this really is free. So triadic healing part 1, you have the book form, you have the game, and you have the online course. You could combine all 3 of those things, and I do recommend it. If you combine all 3, you get the full awesome experience. The game is the movie format. It's when you watch movies and you play like an RPG quest. It's a whole process. So, and then the book for, yeah. So you can read it. You can do live this. Well, yeah. So yeah, when you combine all 3 resources together, it gives you literally everything you need. The only thing you'll have to do on your own is the skill development and the discussion. But in order to do that, you have to know how to do a discussion first, which is part of logic, which is why Sophie's world is absolutely part of the first. Yeah, and then there's the assignments. I have the reading list and the assignments. The reading list and the assignments are how you go through everything to make sure you are like implementing everything. So that is where we're going with that. That is where we are going with that. I do not want to do this today. I am not. I have something I need to go. I have to think about life, the universe, and everything. That's what I need to do. So I'm going to go do that. I might be on later today. Thank you. And may the truth always find you.